Today, we're going to take a look at the first job report of 2025. We're going to see where our jobs, our money, and our future are heading. Healthcare continues to soar, retail is rebounding, but we have some surprising turns in some of the other sectors. Let's take a look at what this means for you and the future of the country. The headline is January 2025 saw a net job growth of 143,000 jobs, which is a little bit underwhelming considering that in December we had over 300,000 jobs that were created. But the unemployment rate, that fell down to 4%, which represents about 6 million Americans right now that are looking for work, but they can't find any work, so they're unemployed. Now, the overall wage growth, that's a sign that looks positive because we've been seeing a little bit over 0.5% every month or a total of 4% wage growth throughout the year. This increase is probably a response to inflation. Healthcare was the undeniable leader, adding 66,000 jobs. Specifically, 44,000 of these jobs were in healthcare services. This shows you how robust this sector is. And the answer is pretty clear here. We have an aging population. We have never had as many people currently living in this country as we do right now. And these people are getting older. They need care. You know, younger people often come up to me and ask, hey, what career would you recommend? Or what job do you think I should get? Or what do you think I should study? And number one usually is healthcare. That represents the most stable and secure career out of any of them. All right, number two, a close second would be the government, depending on what sector of government you're looking at. But number one is healthcare. The problem with healthcare at times is it takes an investment to actually get into that sector, unless you want to be a nurse assistant. You can usually bang out that certification in a few months. But if you want to be an LPN, that usually takes a year. An RN, at a minimum, will take 2 years, depending, because sometimes there's a hard college educational requirement. But yeah, we're seeing baby boomers, the people that are over 61 years old, they need more care and technology allowing for at-home health services. We're seeing an unprecedented demand for healthcare workers. But as this sector continues to grow, are we going to be able to meet the demand? If you look on the federal government side, you'll notice that some of the job announcements, it mentions in there that they're willing to hire non-U.S. citizens. Now, this is a pretty big deal because most people understand that in order to work as a civil service employee, as a federal employee, you need a minimum U.S. citizenship. But in the VA and the HHS, if you look at some of the announcements when it comes to specialized doctors and even sometimes nurses, they're putting at the bottom of their job announcement, they're saying they're willing to consider a non-citizen. Now, in second place, we saw the retail trade bounce back with 34,000 new jobs. This is a little bit surprising. This could be a catch-up from the holiday season, or it could be a sign of consumer confidence. But really, you don't really want to work there, right? Most people don't want a retail job. Most people will look at it and say, okay, that'll be my first job, maybe my second job, but eventually I want to pivot and I want to jump into something that's a little bit more rewarding. Retail is mainly known as a low-end or a dead-end job. The average salary for retail workers is around $32,000 a year. This is where dreams go to die. So if you're there, you need to make a plan for escape. And then there's government, adding 32,000 positions. This might not make any sense to you. Now, sure, Trump came in towards the later half of January 20th, but there was still a lot of anticipation that he was going to try to shrink the federal workforce. The problem with that and this number is this number actually encompasses all government, to include city, county, and state. It's not just federal. They lump them all in together. Interestingly, social assistants, they added 22,000 jobs. These are jobs that are usually focused on counseling, child welfare, and assistance to the elderly and disabled. But not all sectors saw an increase. Professional and business services saw a loss of 11,000 jobs, and this could be what a lot of people are talking about when they say that we're in a white-collar recession. We also saw the mining sector take a loss. A total of 8,000 jobs were lost here, and this could be a shift towards renewable energy. It's becoming more and more clear that solar and maybe even wind, that's going to be the future. Now with solar, look at the states that get tons of sunlight. You have California, Texas, and Florida. Those are three big states. And if they start leveraging more and more of their solar power, that's going to cause a decrease in needing energy from other sources. Also, some of these jobs were lost due to lower metal prices like nickel and lithium. Okay, let's talk about salaries. Wage growth, 4.1% year over year. That's good news for most employees. But the Federal Reserve, they're not going to like it. They do not like it when employees get paid more unless there's an increase in productivity. The reason for that is when businesses pay their employees more, that means there's an extra cost that businesses have, and they pass that cost on to consumers. They're increasing the prices of their products and services. And we've been seeing this over the last 4 or 5 years. We've been seeing crazy high inflation. So the Federal Reserve's take on this is if you're paying your people more and there's not a clear sign of increased productivity, they might end up raising those interest rates. We don't want the interest rates raised. Most of us don't, because what that does is it causes more people to leave the stock market and go to the bond market. The bond market is the one who benefits. The stock market, on the other hand, they're looking at how are these companies going to continue to increase their profits. If they're cutting into their profit margin because debt is more expensive and they're paying their employees more and nothing has changed within that organization, it's not going to be a signal to invest in them. We're also in a new political era with President Trump, and there's been a lot of talk about tariffs in the news lately. Tariff on Canada, tariff on Mexico. Now, we haven't seen other presidents talk like this. And what a tariff does, a lot of people argue, is it pass on the cost to the consumer. So let's say we put a tariff on Canada. Right now there's not one, but let's say in a couple of months it actually goes into effect and there's a 10% tariff. I think it's actually 25% tariff. So maple syrup, if you were to buy that for your pancakes or waffles, if that typically costs $5 and there's a 25% tariff, that means it's going to cost more than $6 for the same bottle of syrup. But maybe that causes you not to want to buy the syrup from Canada, and instead there's multiple syrup companies in America. You buy America, and that's what most people would hope would happen. However, if there are no competitors for that product, if the product is from, let's say, China, and there's no way we can manufacture it for the same cost, and we can't compete with a lot of the labor when it comes to China because they pay them so incredibly low. We don't pay our workers that low, so they can crank out a ton of products for really cheap. So if there's no competitors, then the consumer is going to have to bear the full brunt of the cost. Many people focus on their specific job title. What is my job now? What is my next job? What job should I be looking at? And instead, I think what's more valuable is to look at your skills. What is my value worth? And who do I know? Who knows me? If you have value, you will be in demand, regardless of the industry, regardless of the sector. If you're able to increase profits for a company, if you're able to increase efficiency or productivity in a company, you will be in demand. But it's more than you just saying, I can do it. You have to have proof. You have to have it documented and clear historical evidence that you have this. You should be able to produce the skill on demand. If you are interested in a different type of job, maybe a remote job. Remote jobs right now, they have 3 times more people applying to them than the in-person jobs. And most people don't realize this, but there's a lot of remote jobs in state government. Some of them, they pay over $200,000 a year. If you're interested to learn more about that, I want you to check this video out next. If you need a federal resume example, check out the links down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.